Welcome to the Rhino Studio series. Before we jump in and start building, let's take a few minutes to get familiar with how Rhino works. We'll look at how to start a file, set up your workspace, navigate your model, work with commands, use modeling aids, stay organized with layers, switch between display modes, and customize the appearance of Rhino. Think of this as your quick orientation before we get started. When you create a new file in Rhino, you'll start by choosing a template. Templates establish some of the basic settings for your model, including things like units and tolerances. So make sure you begin with the system that matches the way you're working, whether that's millimeters, meters, inches, or feet. Here's a quick guide to understand when to use small object templates versus large object templates, depending on the scale of what you're designing. Once your file opens, you'll see a few main parts of the Rhino interface. At the center are your viewports, with your command line, toolbars, and panels arranged around them. Before we go any further, let's quickly set up the workspace we'll be using throughout the series. First, arrange your panels so layers and properties are visible at the same time. Layers help you understand how your model is organized, while properties gives you immediate information about whatever geometry you have selected. From there, you can add or rearrange other panels depending on what feels most useful for your workflow. Here are a few we recommend keeping close by as you get started. Next, move the Osnap panel from the bottom of the window to the left side underneath your tools for easier access while you work. Lastly, remove the standard toolbar to create a cleaner workspace. You can also minimize the panels on either side of the workspace and quickly toggle them open or closed using the switches in the bottom corners of the window. Once everything is in place, save the setup as a custom window layout so you can return to it anytime. Before you build anything, get comfortable with how you view and move through the model. By default, Rhino opens with 4 viewports: top, front, right, and perspective. Each one shows the same geometry from a different direction, giving you a clear way to move between plan, elevation, and 3-dimensional views as you work. You can double-click any viewport title to maximize it when you want more space, then double-click it again to return to the 4-view layout. From there, use your mouse to move through the model. You can zoom in and out, pan across the workspace, and orbit around your model in perspective view. Here's how to rotate, pan, and zoom using your mouse on both Mac and Windows. You can run a command in 3 main ways. First, through the pull-down menus. These group tools by category, making them useful for browsing and discovering what's available. Second, through the command line. Simply start typing the name of a command, select it from the suggestions, and Rhino will guide you through what to do next. Third, through the toolbars. These give you visual access to commands through icons and can be customized depending on the tools you use most. Throughout the Rhino Studio series, we'll mainly focus on working directly through the command line. To run a command, simply type its name into the command line. Once the command starts, pay attention to the prompts. It will guide you through each step, show available options, and tell you what Rhino needs from you next. And you don't need to memorize everything. As part of the Rhino Studio series, we've put together a list of 200 plus first commands to know, giving you a place to explore essential commands and gradually build your own toolkit. Along with that list, we've also created a companion Rhino file that focuses on key beginner commands that give you geometry to experiment with, so you can test each command for yourself and get familiar with how it works. For example, let's try fillet. Start by typing fillet into the command line. Rhino will then ask you for the radius you want to use. Enter your radius, select the 2 lines you want to connect, and Rhino creates the fillet for you. And if you want to run the same command again, you don't need to type it all over again. Just press enter when no other command is active to repeat the previous command. At the bottom of the Rhino window, you'll find modeling aids like grid snap, ortho, planar, Osnap, and Gumball. These controls affect how you draw, snap, select, and move geometry. As a starting point, we recommend turning on Grid Snap, Osnap, and Gumball. You can simply click each one in the status bar to toggle it on and off. Here's a quick guide to what the different options in the status bar do, with a closer look at Grid Snap, Osnap, and Gumball. Grid Snap helps you draw and move objects in set increments along the construction grid, which can be useful when you want consistent spacing or more controlled placement. OSnap, or Object Snap, lets you connect precisely to specific points on existing geometry, like endpoints, midpoints, centers, intersections, and more. You can use the OSnap panel on the left to choose exactly which snap points you want active and turn them on and off as you need them. Gumball gives you visual control for moving, rotating, and scaling selected geometry directly in the viewport, making quick transformations easier without needing to run a separate command every time. Layers are how you organize the objects inside your model. To create a new layer, click the New Layer button, give it a name, set it as the active layer. Any new geometry you create will be then placed on that layer. From there, you can adjust settings like the layer color, turn it on and off, lock it, or nest it inside another layer as a sublayer. Here's a quick graphic breaking down the layer panel and what each part does, so you can get familiar with the controls you'll use most often. For architecture, you might organize your layers around categories like reference, annotation, symbols, plan, elevation, and roof, with sublayers inside each depending on the needs of the drawing. For example, a plan layer might include sublayers for ceiling, doors, floors, furniture, glazing, and more. As your project grows, a clear layer structure makes it easier to find objects, control what you're seeing, and understand how different parts of your model relate to one another. Display modes control how your geometry appears inside a viewport without changing the geometry itself. You can switch between modes like wireframe, shaded, rendered, and Arctic depending on what you need to see. Some modes make it easier to understand the structure of your geometry, while others show surfaces, materials, shadows, or a cleaner representation of your model. And each viewport can use a different display mode, so you might work in wireframe in one, while seeing a shaded or rendered version of the same model in another. As you work, try switching between display modes to find the view that best supports what you're designing. You can also customize the appearance of the Rhino workspace itself. Depending on your preferences, you can explore different interface options and adjust things like viewport backgrounds, grid colors, and other visual settings. These choices don't change your model. They simply let you shape the environment you're working in. Take some time to play around with the options and find a setup that feels comfortable for the way you like to work. That's everything you need to get oriented and start working in Rhino. And as you move into the Rhino Studio series, you won't have to start from scratch. We've created downloadable templates that include the layer structure, symbols, and project standards you'll use throughout the Rhino Studio series. Download the template using the link in the description, open it up, and you'll be ready to follow along with the series from the same starting point we're using. Like this video and subscribe to follow along the Rhino Studio series. We'll see you in studio.